Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn from Expert series of Orkestra Online. And we have our first guest, Patrick. And welcome, Patrick. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. And a little bit about this series. This series, we will invite our experts from specifically focused on automation in AEC sector. And we will try to share our experience, learn from each other, and we will do some fun parts with live demo of how to use AI in AEC and some solutions. So that will be a couple of episodes that we will invite multiple people from the industry, and we are expecting a huge benefit in terms of sharing the industry knowledge with each other. And I will start with, if you are new here in the AI ecosystem in AEC, and if you never heard about Orkestra and OKPI, I will share a little bit introduction about what is Orkestra and how you can use it. So Orkestra is an online platform where you can bring your automation solutions in a cloud environment and share with your company. And recently we launched a new tool called OKPI, where you can use AI to create an automation in the Revit or Rhino and Siltry and AutoCAD platforms. And this environment is like an IDE where you code but get assistance from AI. So you are not letting AI to all the job. You can code and get support from the AI. So that's a little bit about us, and we would like to learn, of course, more about Patrick. And can you tell me about yourself, Patrick? How was your experience until now in the automation industry, and just little bit introduction from your side.
Yeah, sure thing. So my name's Patrick Podeyn. I currently work for SSOE Group. I live here in Phoenix, Arizona, more specifically in Goodyear, Arizona. I've been with the company for just over 5 years. It'll be 6 years in November. My title is a BIM VDC specialist, but I focus a lot more on the computational side of things. So coming into the company, I started up with, developing Dynamo workflows, taking over workflows that were already established, training, mentoring the staff, trying to build up more citizen developers that had a want and a desire to use and learn Dynamo. And through that, we were having trouble with getting Dynamo workflows into or deployed out to the company. And so I ran across a company called Orkestra, and I knew Mostafa based off the data shapes years and stuff like that. So we got that involved and got that up and running. So that's kind of my involvement with, Orkestra has been like a prime beta tester for Mostafa and the team. Prior to SSOE, I did just about a year at a consulting company called ATG USA. I was a technical consultant, helping teams convert CAD templates into Revit templates, building families, being like a on-site BIM manager, things like that. Prior to that, I did another year at a company called Katera, where I was a structural designer. So I was doing structural BIM stuff and working on like the structural side for multifamily residential modular design. They had a really cool concept. Prior to that, I did 5 years at a company called Decker Kurt Sabatini. They're now Decker. That's kind of where my career started. I started as a BIM technician, being the Revit support is what we were called. Hey, this isn't working Revit. I can't see this in Revit. Can you help me out? It wasn't until about my first or second year there where I had discovered Dynamo. And so person I worked with, John Pearson, who's now the product manager at Dynamo, he kind of picked it up after attending AU, and then I kind of learned from him and kind of worked my way up. It's kind of been like my gateway drug into programming and coding and stuff like that. And so I've been doing Dynamo now for 10 years now. Of my career has been Dynamo, computational thinking, stuff like that. I did get into, learning how to write Python. That was probably the coolest thing for me, was like learning how to do like an actual written language. I can't call it like I know a second language, but it's Python type of thing. And so that's kind of the evolution of my career. I've been in industry for a while. I've worked on a myriad of different project typologies, commercial, education, government, K-12, you kind of name it. I've kind of done it all. So I've got like a pretty wide array of experience, and I still provide it with SSOE Group here today.
That's awesome. Also, John Pearson was my ex-colleague from Autodesk, so greetings to John if he's
Yeah.
watching from here. That's amazing career. And I also read that you had a leadership award in 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
We like there was like an effort to do like a design automation leadership. It was an internal company award, and that was the year that I pushed really hard to kind of get more citizen developers established within the company, and we created what's now known as the Design Automation Group. And so it's a group of very hardworking individuals that also have normal stuff that they do, like structural engineers and drafters, architectural drafters, mechanical engineers, stuff like that. But they have a want and a desire to continue pushing the limits on, efficiency and automation. And so we focused pretty heavily on that. We had a pretty big effort to kind of get more of the company using Orkestra, using the Dynamo tools that we had developed and put them into Orkestra so they're more easily available. And so we can, just overall save more time with people using all of these awesome tools that not only myself and my other colleagues are making.
Wow, it sounds like you had a lot of efficiency
Yes.
for your company. That's
Mhm.
amazing. So you have all this experience and you had a great journey and but still what are the biggest workflow challenges or inefficiencies that still frustrate you? What you were always complaining about and it is still there? Is there a legacy issue that still bothers you today?
I mean, I think with everybody else out there, there's always those complaints of like, it's another new year of Revit and like, where is this API method to,
Oh yeah.
create scope boxes? Like that seems like something very rudimentary and straightforward that should be easily implemented, but it's something that's still missing. Like that's one that's dear to
Mhm.
me of creating scope boxes, right? So like,
Yeah.
aside you know, there really isn't a whole lot much more other than that for me in terms of efficiencies. Still trying to get people to buy into like using some of the automation tools we create and things like that is just like another one of those inefficiencies. But I think that's something that everybody
Yeah.
experiences everywhere.
I remember that I think it was 2019 or something related to an API for ceiling creation, which
Yes.
people were looking for a lot, and it was never coming. And then it came. Everyone was so happy. So yeah, definitely some missing API challenges are very limit. It's creating a lot of limitation for automation people, who wants to create something new.
Yeah. I
And
guess I guess like another inefficiency I think about it too is like the date change from 24 to 25 and then
yeah,
kind of a lot of the package developers kind of, no longer wanting to update their package or it not working and having kind of these backdoor things. Like I get why they did it for efficiency and everything, but just seeing that some of those package developers no longer are maintaining their packages kind of due to it or older packages not being maintained kind of is another sort of inefficiency, I think.
yeah, definitely. Being dependent on third parties is always a challenge.
Mhm.
You need to be mindful about that. You are dependent on that person, and that person can stop developing that thing at any moment. And trying to, prepared for this type of things are very essential. And I remember that from Dynamo side, even in general, I think if we are facing this type of things, there should be always, this should not be pushed to customers, but there should be a choice for customers to change the version. I don't want to use your new version. I want to stay here and I want to stay on that line. But it is very challenging. You have new nodes coming up, changing or breaking things, but you don't want to use that version. You want to stuck with the version one. Uh, that decision, it would be great if it is on the customer side, not the company side. But since this is how it is and how it is going, yeah, there were a lot of complaints about changes that's happening frequently, and hopefully, it's going better, in my opinion. And there are great updates on the automation side, specifically around packages. I believe those things are addressed now better. with the new versions, Dynamo 4.0.
Yeah.
And what was your biggest success where you felt the satisfaction of, automating something? What was your biggest impact on your team where you felt very proud of yourself?
Oh man, there's been a lot. I'll talk about the most recent one
Yeah.
that I helped out on. So there was a structural team, and they're dealing with trying to put penetrations in a certain family, and they were structural elements framing through, and what they wanted to do was show the penetrations in there. And so it wasn't a normal wall, it was a generic model actually that they were trying to put penetrations through. And then the structural system, they were generic models as well. So it made it a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
My point of being there was to try and help them solve the initial problem right there, not necessarily try to drive back and fix it and have them use beams there. But we took me a couple tries, and so we use BIM Logic here at SSOE Group, which is a prompting AI where you can prompt with it and it builds, C# code in the background for you to be able to run things. And so I utilized that tool, and after a couple trial and error of prompting, I kind of made it simple. I started out with, trying to have it find like the little outline where like the member or like the element that was colliding with it would find
Yeah.
it and then automatically place the voids themselves. And I kind of went through a lot of trial and error on that side of it, trying to find the thing. And ultimately where I landed on, just to help them get their package out the door, was I just placed a couple voids in there manually, void families that would cut the family, and it was in 4-foot segments. So every 4 foot there was a new family, right? That's how the contractor wanted it to look. And so what I had BIM Logic do was basically, take these two voids that I select and copy them over every 2 feet or 4 foot, depending on the situation. And then the cool thing that the tool did was it went through, once it placed all of them, is it went back and did each individual cut where the family that needed to be cut was used as the host, and then the cutting family were the two void families. And so it worked pretty well. I think there was one
Wow.
section where there was about 890 cuts that needed to be had on this
Oh my
section.
God.
Luckily, it was a repetitive pattern, right? It was every 2 or 4 feet was a repeatable pattern. So there were maybe like one or two situations where I had to do something manual, but that was probably like, as of late, like the most like feel good like automation. Like I helped this team like overcome some adversity with what they were going to have to do manually, right? So that was like my most recent one.
Wow, that sounds amazing. It sounds like it would be impossible to do it by hand, all of them, 800.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be very impactful for the team. And, it's a big success, in my opinion, to be able to handle it. And how long did it take for you to handle the whole process?
For me to handle it probably took me, just between the back and forths of the prompting and everything like that, minus waiting for the prompt, like the tool to kind of write the code and everything like that, probably around like an hour and a half, 2 hours, somewhere in that
Wow.
neighborhood. And yeah, it was wonderful to see it actually happen. It was one of those where I had to break it down and be even more simpler, more hands-on in the automation, which I think is perfectly acceptable in a lot of situations. You don't need to try
Mhm.
to solve it like 100% all the way. If you have to do like 10% manually, but you're able to get 70,
Yeah.
80% of the way there, I think that's way more valuable. And so like it's built in a way where it's scalable, so that way I don't have to necessarily run it. If else could run it for a completely different project that needs something, of this similar circumstance and stuff like that. So that's another thing we try to strive for, is just building workflows that meet that project's needs, but also is scalable, that could be used
Yeah.
by other teams and different projects and stuff like that.
Definitely. Thank you very much for sharing that. And
Yeah.
I'm curious how your logic starts when you decide something, when you decide on automating something. How is your thinking process? Where do you start from? What is your first sketch on that process? Do you start from the end? For example, I personally I check what is the outcome needed, and from there I go backwards regarding the inputs that I need and try to create a whole schema. And but everyone has different thinking processes. And how do you work when you decide to automate something, or how do you decide to automate something?
I think first things first is it even possible to do conceptually? That's usually the first thing. Are there any API limitations? Are we needing to go and reach out to anything external from, say Revit or Rhino or Civil 3D in that matter? Like, do you need to reach out? Is that even possible to kind of do that sort of outreach? And then so like if it is possible, right, like it then starts to become a factor of like, okay, well, how many variables are going to be, needed to be had on trying to solve it. And sometimes it's too many to where like this one automation can't necessarily be scalable or handle all of these situations. So in turn, it kind of turns into, kind of multiple automations with some manual stuff in between to kind of handle that. And then second, it's kind of like, or third, it's kind of like, how often are you going to be using this? Is it just a one-time thing? Like, is it just so you can get a package out of the door this upcoming week, stuff like that, that kind of determine like, do we work on it or not? Or if it's something that kind of goes in like the back burner of our automation backlog of things that we're working on. So how soon do they need to get it out? And then I've been just doing this for so long that I'm able to quickly think of like this, thinking of the solution in my head as the users or the clients talking about what they're trying to automate and what they're trying to do. And from there, I can start to decide like, yeah, this is definitely doable, or, it's not 100% doable, but we can get you maybe like 60-70% of the way there. Maybe it's not doable in the sense that it covers everything, but maybe we can add something in there that catches like those like 10% that this automation can't necessarily catch, but it still saves you time having to go and identify it and track it down. So, I mean, there's a couple, that's really the process. Most time when people reach out to us, when they need something automated, more times than not, it's something that can be automated. We haven't ran into too many encounters where it wasn't really automatable, or at least the some component wasn't automatable on it. So we really try to break things down in that facet, and we don't look at the holistic approach of we're going to 100% this problem that you have. It's more we're going to, if we can't get you 100% of the way there, can we get you 80%, 70% of the way there? Because it's still better than zero, right?
Yeah. You check the durability of the stuff, and then you try to chunk it. If it is not possible 100%, you try to chunk it down to smaller pieces and try to get there as much as possible, like 8%, 70%.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good strategy actually. It also increases the reusability of the steps. Sometimes I try to, it's a good strategy to chunk it down, because the smaller chunks could be reusable, more reusable than whole system. It is like creating one template for simple part, very simple area, collect all the sheets maybe, and then you continue with other steps and you bring them together. Maybe from another project you will bring another chunk to reuse it. So it increases reusability. I like that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it helps out too for somebody like trying to learn like Dynamo and things like that.
Yeah,
Like take your idea, like I even when in Dynamo, like I would do what you would do when I was mentoring people of like, all right, what are we truly trying to accomplish? And then go and identify like the nodes needed to accomplish that, and then work backwards, trying to fulfill those inputs of what you're trying to ultimately accomplish. And so like that's the key component of computational thinking, right?
yeah,
Breaking down a large problem into smaller bite-sized pieces, right? And that really goes hand in hand with like, starting out in Dynamos, break it down very
yeah.
simple and then kind of work your way out to the grand, what you're ultimately trying to develop.
Yeah, instead of having one tool, have 5 tool, but
Yeah.
smaller pieces. That's
Mhm.
much more efficient. And when you work on these projects with your clients, do you face any adoption problems or any kind of frustration, or challenges or blocking things
Yeah.
for the
Yeah, we
adoption?
Absolutely, and I think everybody kind of has the some sort of an adoption issue of people not trusting the tool, and that's
Hmm.
usually the
Yeah.
hardest thing that we're trying to do, especially with, all these new AI tools that are coming out is, it does these really cool things, but you're always going to have the people that like don't fully trust it. And so trying to get those people to trust and believe in the tool, right? That's really the toughest thing that we're trying to
Hmm.
push right now. Like I just got out of a meeting where we had developed some automation tools for a specific team, and one of their feedback was is that they don't they want to run it on a offline model that's not connected to like ACC and stuff like that, which completely understand. We want people to fully trust that these tools are going to do what they're,
Yeah.
said to do, and that there's not going to be any issue or concern or anything like that. And so, whatever we can do to sort of help build that trust, if it's adding in a couple of, you know, checks within an automation just to give feedback to the user of, hey, it did, A, B, C, D, but, there were, X, Y things that weren't fully done. We've saved a selection set or something like that, or here's a report for you, right? And so we're still working on trying to build that trust in these tools, especially the ones developed by AI. We did a really good
Yeah.
job of building that trust with Orkestra and the Dynamo workflows and being very quick and diligent when things don't work quite right, and going in and developing that troubleshooting, or building in the fixes, troubleshooting those errors that occur, and trying to reassure the designers and engineers and stuff that these tools are going to truly work the next time around. So building trust is like the hardest thing in terms of trying to get adoption.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, we don't have any problem with technology at the moment. There are many solutions happening, but we have the adoption problem. Now we don't have people to use it or trust it enough. And it is really hard for even startups. There are many AI startups to find their marketing space within the customer, because customer can be, very conservative about these technologies, and they would like to stick to what they know, and breaking that is quite challenging.
Mhm.
And what did you work for you? Like, how did you gain that trust? Was it just demonstrating the tool, how it works, and or was there any kind of, tips and tricks that you can share?
So I'm on the corporate side of our company, and so I don't work in the projects here and there. And so, like, something that's kind of helped us, and it helped us a lot when it came to rolling out Orchestra and getting people to use it, where their coworkers encouraging them to use it. Like, we have a
Mm,
lot of members on our design automation team and are working in the projects day in and day out. And working with their colleagues and stuff like that, just leaning over their shoulder, or like saying, hey, can you help me out with something? And them saying, oh, there's a Dynamo workflow that, works, that does exactly what you're trying to do. Like an example that we have are, grid bubble toggling, right? Something that, could be a little difficult to try to trust like an automation of doing this. But as soon as like your colleague who's also in the work doing it and showing you that, hey, this works, go ahead and run it. I'll show you how to do it, right? That also helps. Like that's like helped us the most in getting adoption in the tools are like like other people's colleagues, showing them the tools and then showing them that like, hey, yeah, this stuff really does work. I use it day in and day out. Because we could do all the webinars in the world, we can like make people familiar, twice a week and things like that, and there's still going to be like the handful of users that attend, but they go back to their desk and they don't necessarily recall like, oh, this workflow exists. And so that's another thing that we've
mhm,
experienced in adoption is we show this a million times, but somebody still comes up and says, hey, I still do it this way manually. And then somebody says, oh, there's a Dynamo workflow for it, and I'll sit down with you to show you how to use it. And then at that point in time, it's like a light bulb goes off, and they're like, oh my gosh,
mhm.
this is the best thing since sliced bread. I'm gonna, use this every day. And so we hope that that little experience permeates from like, the design automation user to that colleague, from that colleague to another colleague, and it kind of just spreads like wildfire of like that. Um, you know,
Oh, yeah.
this is so amazing. Like, are you using this? Like, why aren't you using this? Like, oh my gosh, I did this over lunch and I thought it was going to take me hours and now it's done and I can go home, without having to spend extra
Yeah,
time doing something. So, that's one thing that's kind of helped us
yeah, that's
with pushing
always.
adoption.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. Yeah, that's, light bulb moment,
Yeah.
the enlightenment. It is always amazing. And it's really, when you have an impact on the people's life like this with these automation tools, it really makes you enjoy your job.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of AI tools right now, in specifically AEC, we are encountering with from Autodesk side, there are new MCPs are coming to the workflows. We have AI startups. For you in your company, what was the, actually value creating tools within AI ecosystem?
What tools are we using?
Yeah, but tools that are actually creating a value in your company that you get some
Um,
efficiency. You see that it is really usable and it's creating a huge amount of value for you and involve it into your workflows if there's any. I don't know.
yeah, one of the AIs aside from like what's in Revit and everything like that is we use one called Abacus, and then it's a routing LLM. So we've been using that pretty heavily, and
Mhm.
giving people sort of free rein to try and think up and prompt and develop tools that kind of help their needs. And so we're seeing some value come out of that, and people building some really awesome things. Having the ability to build a web app or something of that sort, like without having any background coding knowledge, is pretty
Yeah,
valuable. We're starting to see new design automation users come out of the woodwork with the use of having Abacus, and they're developing tools for PyRevit, which is really awesome to see. And we had a little situation where we wanted to push a PyRevit tool that they had created and get it into Orkestra. And so we met with Mostafa to help us with that, and he actually used the OKPy agent to convert the PyRevit tool to work in OKPy, and it was almost virtually like the same, like one for
yeah,
one, like creation of the tools from one to another. So we here we're trying to keep it very limited to like what we're using as far as AI. We don't want to have too many AI tools where we're not getting as much value. So we're focusing a lot on making sure that the ones that we're testing and working with and deploying out to the company are going to be the ones that drive the most value for
yeah,
the company.
yeah. That's great. I think I never heard Abacus, you said, right? The
Yeah,
name Abacus. I never heard
Mhm.
that tool. I will definitely check it out. And my
It's a great
understand,
tool. Oh, so sorry.
yeah.
I was
No,
going
no,
to say
go
about
ahead.
Abacus. It's a wonderful tool. It's so wonderful that I have my own personal subscription of
Wow.
Abacus that I use day to day. It's really cool. It's a routing LLM, so you give it your prompt, and then it goes and uses the best agent based on what your prompt is. If it's something coding related, it'll use Claude. If it's something image related, right, it'll use like the nano bananas and stuff like that, and the GPTs of the world. So
I
really just
see.
based on your prompt, and yeah, it's really cool. You can create web apps really easily with the tool. Again, like I have my own personal
Yeah.
subscription to it. It's
Well, for me, it was OkPy that I used for creating web apps, and I start to have my own account. And but yeah, definitely there are a lot of tools in the industry, and you can never follow them all, and you need to hear it from someone else that they are using, they're getting the value out of it. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And my understanding is that you had a little bit time to play with OkPy in the past, or you just observed, how it is being used.
Oh yeah, I there was a little bit of time where I was able to interact with the agent and utilize it and build something really cool with it, that I posted on LinkedIn, that
Yeah.
room renumbering tool. It just kind of funny enough, it came to me as we were working on developing automations for a particular project team, and one of the tasks they wanted to do was room renumbering. And initially we thought like let's try and figure out the logic behind this, and having seen some of the examples of other people posting what they had built in OKPI using the agent, it kind of gave me an idea of how to
Yeah.
sort of solve this in a way that still gives the user the freedom to be able to still determine how it gets numbered. If there's no logic associated to it, they can renumber it however they want. And so, I just started prompting away and sort of came up with the tool that I posted on LinkedIn to renumber the fairly easily.
Yeah, that's very cool. And we ask you to bring automation idea to try
Yes.
with OKPy. So let's try that and try to see how we can use AI and automate something. So what was the idea? Of course, we didn't exchange this information to make it a live demonstration.
Absolutely, yeah. The thing I would love to see built is we've had some requests to be able to calculate closest distance or closest travel path distance from rooms to restrooms or water closets. And
Oh, okay.
so I'll just give you a quick rundown. So the goal is to have like one or more calculated paths from a point that the user clicks on. The path draws the line. I don't want it to be necessarily a detail line. I want to try and use like the path of travel. So we have the capabilities to be able to, schedule it and get length and things like that. An important piece is the user selection. So like ignore elements. So like if the users want to ignore doors, things like that, it can go through the door, right? So
Yeah.
having that type of maybe category selection to ignore elements of, so it's not blocking it. Find the shortest distance to any water closet or restroom, or if multiple, if that's something that the user wants to have in there, draw the lines and then report back on them. And then one little nitpicky thing is to have it do orthogonal, no diagonal lines.
Oh, no diagonal lines. Okay,
No
so
diagonal, yes.
let's see. So I am in 2027 in Revit, and I
Okay.
will go and open my orchestra account. So my understanding is that in this project, let's check if they have, I have the sample architecture project in front of me. So we
Hmm.
are looking for the shortest distance from any room or from a selected room to the restroom.
Selected. Yeah, let's do
Okay,
selected.
so let me make this full size and let me check the project a little bit more. That's, if there's any restroom included here. There are some restrooms, but is there a tag for them? No room tag attached, as far as I see. Is it always the same? Yeah. So let's use restroom. So I don't want to deal with adding a room tag for all the toilets here, restrooms here. So let's work on just on this side, and let's assume I will select a room from here. Maybe I don't have too much chances, but there's kitchen and a cafe area, and maybe stairs as well. There's a door here, so yeah, it can work. I think that would be acceptable, right? For a small demo,
Think so.
and if we can work on it together. So I want to create an automation tool to find the shortest distance between the selected room and the restroom. So we don't want to see any orthogonal lines, and how we want to see the output. Should it show just a line?
Yeah, so like using the path of travel line
Yeah,
that's built into Revit.
use or create a path of travel line. And I always said, I try to prevent AI to decide things by itself, and I always add this line at the end, ask any workflow solution. So that if anything is missing in my prompt, it will ask me a question, which is the thing that I like about OKPy. So it will prevent deciding things by itself.
I like that.
So one question from the AI, how should the tool identify which rooms count as restrooms? Be by room name keyword.
Yeah, I think so. Room name keyword.
You can also define others if you
Mm.
have something very specific. So when you use this tool, should it create a new window that will allow you to continue working on the Revit, or should it use classical Orkestra panel that comes up and Revit is paused while the window is open? Should be,
I think that floating panel, yeah. I would say like a lot of users would probably find it really useful to be able to have like that tool open while still being able to interact with Revit.
yeah, I agree. That sounds more modern looking way of doing things. So the good thing about OKPy, which I find very successful, it is dynamically checking up what APIs are existing in the Revit environment. And this way, every time you run a new tool in OKPy, you don't need to worry about if it is an old version that doesn't know about the new APIs and stuff. And so it's always aware of what are the capabilities of the current environment that it is working in. It could be still 3D, Rhino, and other stuff, which is an interesting thing.
That's super nice to have. I'm pretty like focused on like that ask any workflow decisions, and I'd never thought about incorporating something like that. And I'm going to
Yeah,
test it on like the other on the BIM logic tool that we have to see how it
yeah,
interprets that.
definitely. When I noticed that there are options that are appearing, uh, I decided that I should make this a habit, always prevent the AI to decide on things by itself. And that's usually something that most of the people ignore. They let the AI decide. Of course, at some point you can say decide yourself, but for the main ideas, main circulation of the workflow, I should be in the control, not the
Hmm.
AI. And having this flexibility is usually very useful. You feel more
Absolutely.
aware of the workflow and you don't miss anything. But that's a very cool idea, actually. Was there any reason that you picked this automation?
It's something that's kind of been in our backlog. And
Ah,
we had an outside consultant kind of help build it for us. And so we're no longer working with them. And so we're trying to get this tool back into our hands so that way we can control when updates and things are happening. And, we're working on a solution in the BIM logic tool, but I'm curious, like, I want to see how powerful the OKPy tool is and how well it kind of
yeah.
creates it, and just to compare the two.
Normally it takes it can take 2 to 5 prompts to customize the solution and make it 100% align with your own idea. But sometimes it can nail it in one prompt as well. If you have a good, structuring and steps are designed on the way, like we did with using the options feature, you can nail it very quickly as well.
Definitely. What's your take on like the amount of detail you put into your prompts? Do you put a lot of detail? Do you not put a lot of detail?
No, you should avoid putting a lot of things actually. Less is much better. Less is
Okay.
more, when it comes to prompting. But what I do, getting a structured output is important. If I have some personal projects, and in those projects I use OKPy as well, and also Cloud and Codex. I use all of them. I like trying different things and working on them. Uh, and to be able to make them work at the same time with the same project, I need a structured output that includes every detail so that if I change an agent to another one, I can see it and the agent can pick it up correctly. That part is important. So make sure that your outputs are structured. Make sure that you have steps included and just let the AI to work on it and ask you questions about the undecided parts. That part is, covering a lot of things. For me, I don't think it is now about AI. It is now about the whole AI experience. What are the tools are how the tool itself allowing you to interact with the AI. So that part is more important today. So the agent created a solution. So we have a test mode here. But if the solution has UI, you can also click on this preview button. But at the moment, it doesn't have a usable web type of UI. So we will go with the current test window. When you click on the test mode, we will have this UI that's created by the AI. So we need to pick the source room. So I think there are two options, which is great. So you can pick it from the dropdown or you can pick from the model. So let's pick this stair room. That is added here. Restrooms found, two restrooms. And so it found the nearest restroom 01. So this one is the one that he found. So let's click on draw of the path. Crop region is enabled in the view. So I think that looks okay. What do you think? Okay. So this one is not, actually this is closest one. Oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting. I wonder how it calculated that. Was there any blocking things here? Let's exit the test mode and go back. But what about the other stuff? So
I think
it's not orthogonal.
Yeah.
So it couldn't do actually the easiest part, finding the short path, but I wonder if there was something blocking or let's see. So as a feedback, the drawing and overall UI was okay, but the closest restroom was not calculated correctly. Explained. Well, actually, I think he used the Revit API, and but let's see what it used for calculating that distance.
I think that's a key prompt right there. Explain how it did it. I think
Yeah.
that's something most people might miss when something fails, and not asking it to explain how it found it or came across that. Because I think sometimes that can show what you could include in your next prompt to be able to correct that
100%.
issue.
So it's kind of fun to bug. It says that path of travel find shortest path, run just once. That returns a single path to whichever restroom is closest.
I wonder if it's doing like get the restrooms and then the room that you selected and do like a straight point, a line to line or a point to point, and it calculates based off of that instead of it going through the obstacles to find it,
Yeah.
Or how like the stairs, I guess, how is it finding it is using the stair rooms, origin point, which could be like further up, which could determine that, right?
I agree. I think, it calculated the like straightforward closest room. If this is the center, this is the center of the room, as you said, it will draw the line like this and then draw the line. It will not try to calculate distance by travel path, which was the mistake there. And it kind of explained here. So it decided the path by a straight line distance. So that is the important part. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing the automation idea. I think it was very cool to try on. And what are your feedbacks? What is your feedback about the current demonstration? It is
You
good
know,
and bad. What your honest
yeah,
opinion.
I've always been thoroughly impressed with OKPi, just in the agent specifically, and just my experiments on my own, doing a couple things here and there and comparing it to another AI tool that we're using. I think, being the cool thing that it did was being able to convert that PyRevit tool into a tool that is now part of our Orkestra ecosystem. We can track it. We can look at like usage numbers on the tool, stuff like that. So I think having that ability to be able to convert it in that way and not having to give it a lot, in prompt, just giving it the resource files and having it converted, I think will be valuable for us as we, utilize some of these tools and start to think about how can it help us get more closer to that 100% of automation is really, really cool. The user interface, how it builds, like those WPF UIs are super, super cool. Like the interactive one that I had built in that room renumbering tool was so cool. It blew me away. Absolutely. I think this demonstration, this is a bit of a difficult problem to try to solve. And maybe there is something going on with that room that we're just not seeing that
Yeah, I would
could be
say,
the complete reason why it's not working.
yeah, I would think that there's something with the project as well. There's something invisible when it comes to calculating that we need to highlight with
Mhm.
prompting to better understand how it works at this point. But I would say it is not a very complex task at the moment for this project, but it could be a maybe clean model to eliminate all the dubs.
But again, yeah, just seeing the evolution of OKPy as an IDE and now encompassing this AI agent and being able to write stuff in C# is just super, super cool.
Yeah,
Just blown away by the tool, absolutely.
that's awesome. And as for the last question, for someone just starting their automation journey today, what advice would you give them?
Just try something. I mean, if you're looking to get started, Dynamo is probably the easiest way to get started in this world of computation, or if you're on Rhino, get started in Grasshopper. You
Yeah,
know, just get started. And something I tell everybody that's looking to just learn Dynamo from scratch, alongside watching like all of like those tutorials, like, I still recommend our people to go and watch those Aussie BIM Guru Dynamo tutorials. Like those have been just absolutely phenomenal, very well put together. And I just give those to the people that want to learn. Once they're done with that, let's meet, let's try and build something. And so if you're just looking to build something, don't try to, build like the next evolutionary thing. How I started is I moved a generic model. I adjusted its elevation parameter. Something
yeah,
simple, just understand how that works, how that operating, and then kind of stepping on from that, even though I would say do any sort of workflow you're doing right now, regardless if it's already efficient enough as it is manually, try to do it in Dynamo, right? Create floor plans with levels, right? Just start adding on things incrementally, but just start small, understand what's going on. Dynamo forums there. If you're in Revit 27 or something like that, Autodesk Assistant is there. I've been experimenting with the Autodesk Assistant for Revit 26 and Dynamo, and pretending I'm a brand new
yeah,
user, giving it a workflow. Hey, can you explain what's going on in this workflow? And it gave me like, oh yeah, this is what's going on. And do you want to have like some practice examples that you want to work on? I said, sure, let's see it. Came up with 6 examples that directly pinpointed key features of the workflow. So like, having that there is really, really awesome. Use AI to the best of your ability to have it come up with problems for you to solve and stuff like that. As you're starting out, don't heavily rely on it. Use it when you're the plan Z of like, I can't figure this thing out, right? Have it help you there. But yeah, just start small, do something that you already do day to day, and build that, and then just start tacking on, and eventually, like some of these ideas, these big bold ideas, will start to show themselves and solve it.
Yeah,
Do it in small
definitely.
pieces, but
And I believe all these AI opportunities, integrations, they drop the learning cost almost zero. You could just learn on the spot according to what you need. And that's the biggest win.
yes. Absolutely. When I learned Dynamo, I didn't have like
Yeah.
the advantage of like the YouTube tutorials. I didn't have the AI capabilities that we have now. I literally had to just keep racking my brain and keep trying and trying. And then if something isn't working right, hey John, can you help me? Type of thing. So absolutely, today it's a little bit easier and it makes it more inviting and more welcoming to step into this
Definitely.
world of computation.
Thank you very much for sharing your time with us today. And it was very informing from my side to meet with you. This was our first time meeting even on screen. It was a pleasure to meet with you. And hopefully it was a useful webinar for you as well, a meeting for you as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to hop on here and share my thoughts, especially talking about orchestra and things like that. I absolutely support 100% orchestra and all the things that Mustafa has done, and with you on the team now, everything you guys are doing. So keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, absolutely had a blast being on here today. Thank you so much for having me
Thank you too. Have a great day.
as well. Thank you.